Today, I want to start by asking the question, what do you fear the most? What do you fear the most? What is that one thing that you are really scared of? Maybe it's not a thing, maybe it's a person. What is that one thing or one person that you are afraid? Now, you don't have to answer me. All of us have something that we fear, including myself. I fear something. But according to some statistics, some studies, the most common um, type, the most common types of fear include the fear of flying. Okay, maybe some of you are afraid of hopping into an airplane and you're afraid to fly. Some are fearful of failure. They are afraid of failing. Some are afraid of spiders. They call it the arachnophobia. Some are fearful of heights, also known as acrophobia, right? Acrophobia. Some have fear of closed spaces, which is what they call the claustrophobia. And they have this also fear of open spaces, which is agoraphobia. There's also the fear of snakes. I personally know one person here who is really afraid of snake. And there's also the fear of speaking, which is what they call the public speaking. Yeah, some people are afraid of spokesman club. We have this joke that whenever spokesman club, someone gets sick because they don't want to thinking about the speech makes them sick. And those people who are afraid of dying. So there's so many things that people are afraid of. And because of this, there are a lot of studies, there are a lot of effort that has been exerted to really remove all types of fear in our lives. If you have grown in the 80s or 90s, I would say the young people have not experienced this, but for us who grew up in the 80s and 90s, there's this popular I don't know what you call it. Is it motto or mantra? They have these T-shirts with no fear, di ba? Have you seen that? There's this the eyes like that. I used to draw that, no fear. Do have the T-shirts, and then even the president of the United States, his name is Franklin D. Roosevelt. He's known for saying this quote: "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Di ba? Meron ganun? So, a lot of people, really, the word itself, fear, is kind of, it brings or elicit these negative emotions within us. And so, we want to remove it. And even in the Bible, we know that we need to overcome our fear. In the Bible, there's some preachers or teachers that said that the word fear not is mentioned in the Bible 365 days. That's what they say. I haven't really confirmed that, but that's what they say, 365 days. So every day of the year, you can read this one passage that says, fear not. Okay? So in our effort into removing this type of fear, there's one type of fear that is also not being talked about. It is not something that you would commonly hear in a lot of Christian circles, in a lot of Christian churches. You would commonly hear, "Oh, God is love, He is full of grace, He is merciful." But this type of fear is not actually very popular. It is not something that is commonly talked about. And because of this, brethren, I believe that because of this particular topic that is not being expounded regularly, a lot of people have become lukewarm. Because they don't have enough of this type of fear, they forget to really obey God. And because of this, brethren, this is what I want to talk about today. And this type of fear is what you call the godly fear. The fear of the Lord. Or what we come to understand the fear of Yahweh. So this is the type of fear that I want to mention, because this type of fear of Yahweh is something that is not really emphasized in the Christian circle, in this Christian group. Even it is something that is rarely talked about. And because of this, brethren, a lot of people don't fear God enough, so they follow the evil dictates of their human nature. Let me just give you an example. According to the Pew Research Center, 54% of Christians say that we should accept homosexuality. Can you just imagine that, brethren? These are supposed to be Christians. Now, specifically, brethren, it specifically says that according to denominations, 70% of Catholics say that homosexuality is okay. And then there are 66% of Protestants who say that it's okay, and 62% of Orthodox Christians approve of this lifestyle. So, you could see here, brethren, that you don't have to deny the existence of God. You don't have to deny your faith. But when you lack this type of fear, you would see yourself compromising with your belief, because you don't fear God enough. Another one, this is about the use of pornography. In 2014, Barna Group surveyed that 64% of Christian men admitted to viewing pornography at least once a month. And then in 2020 Restoring Hearts Counseling Study found that 77% of Christian men between 18 to 30 years old look at pornography at least once a month, and 36% view it daily. Now look at this, brethren. That's not the most shocking part of the statistics. According to Baptist News, 50% of pastors view porn on a regular basis. Can you just imagine, brethren? These are already pastors who view porn on a regular basis. So, what's happening here, brethren? These are supposed to be Christians, and yet their lifestyle is not reflecting the way of God. And I believe, brethren, this has something to do with fear of God, the fear of Yahweh. Because if you don't fear God enough, you would certainly be able to compromise on your belief and your principles. Let me share with you a story which I believe would give us an insight of what it means to lack the fear of God. In the 1980s, there was this particular pastor that I will not mention his name anymore. He's a very popular televangelist in the US in the 1980s. His ministry grew so big at that time, right? That at one time, his ministry was the largest globally. Ito talagang mega church ito. This is a pastor who was able to grow a church very big. But the problem was that he was accused of sexual misconduct, which led to his resignation. And his illegal misuse of ministry funds eventually led to his imprisonment. So, there was this one interviewer who was curious. What happened to this guy? What happened to this pastor that's all of a sudden he was able to commit all these sins, all these mistakes, all this wrongdoing? So, he went to the prison and interviewed this pastor. Okay, so he asked the question. Sabi niya, when did you fall out of love with Jesus? Yan yung tanong ng interviewer. He asked this question because earlier in the ministry of that pastor, his love for Jesus radiated from him. He was really zealous. He was really filled with this love for Jesus or Yeshua. So this interviewer asked him that question. Okay? When did you fall out of love with Jesus? And this was his answer, the convicted pastor. I want you to listen closely. He said, I didn't fall out of love with Jesus. I love Jesus the entire time. I love Jesus, but I didn't fear God. Did you see that, brethren? He said that his love for Jesus remained. He loved Jesus the entire time, but he didn't fear God. What is this telling you, brethren? What is this telling you? It tells you that it is possible for us to be very zealous in the work of God, serving here and there, doing everything that we want for God. And yet, when we don't have the fear of the Lord, the fear of Yahweh, it is very easy for us to fall into temptations. So, a lot of people, not just outside of the church, but also inside of the church, because the lack of fear of Yahweh, we sometimes succumb to temptations and give in to these sinful activities. So that's why, brethren, it is very important for us to better understand this power. We better understand this type of fear of Yahweh. And that is exactly what I want to share with you. Okay? Now, when I was trying to think of a topic for this message, I thought of the fear of Yahweh because I haven't heard much about this message. Perhaps you have heard about this in the past. But when I started to look into the fear of Yahweh in the Bible, I suddenly realized that this is a huge topic. Hindi pala basta-basta ang topic to. It is so huge that I would say that this is not enough. This message is not enough to really cover all the topics under this fear of Yahweh. That's why, brethren, originally I would like to share with you 7 points. Okay, so that was my original plan, but I suddenly realized that it's very long. So I just distilled it into answering 3 questions, and then I still saw it's very long. So for now, I will just try to ask 2 questions. Okay, the 2 questions is this: what is the fear of the Lord, and why should we fear Yahweh? Those 2 questions. Just the 2 of the questions. Actually, the third one should be how to develop the fear of Yahweh. But perhaps, if given the time or chance, I might give that message as a separate one. But for now, let me just answer these two questions. What is the fear of the Lord, and why we should fear Yahweh? Alright, so let's start. I hope that you are ready to better understand the fear of Yahweh, because I can tell you that if you have the proper understanding of the fear of Yahweh, this would dramatically change the way you see God and the way you establish your relationship with Him. Alright, so let's go. Let's go to the first question. What is the fear of Yahweh, or the fear of God? Let's go to Exodus 20, verse 18 to 20. Exodus 20. Now, most of you, if you heard the chapter Exodus 20, you know that this chapter is about it's about the 10 Commandments. So, after giving the 10 Commandments, brethren, in verse 18, we read here, now all the people witnessed the thunderings, the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood afar off. So natakot sila. They trembled, nanginig sila. And then verse 19, then the people, they said to Moses, you speak with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. And so, verse 20, verse 20. And Moses said to the people, now this is what I want you to focus on, verse 20. He said, do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that His fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. Now, if you notice, brethren, in that verse, initial command of Moses was, do not fear. Do not fear. And yet, in the latter part, he said that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. Can you just imagine that, brethren? Moses was saying, oh, do not fear. Tapos sasabihin niya, oh, have fear. So is Moses contradicting himself here, brethren? What is he actually saying here? Do not fear, and then that his fear may be before you. This is actually a good verse to show us that there are two types of fear. Okay? We have the godly fear and the ungodly fear. Or we have the unholy fear and the holy fear. So when Moses said, do not fear, he's actually referring to the ungodly fear. Okay? And then so that the fear of God, his fear, may be before you, so that you may not sin. Can you just imagine, brethren, being in that situation, brethren, at the Mount Sinai, seeing all this thundering, this lightning of the trumpet, and the ground is trembling. So these people are afraid. And now, they are being taught by Moses not to fear, because by removing this fear, this ungodly fear, they would develop this godly fear. So let's talk more about that, brethren. So we know that there are two types of fear. The one that we should eradicate from our lives, and the one that we should develop, which is the godly fear. Alright? So, because we are so accustomed to relating fear to negative emotions, sometimes we have this difficulty of really identifying what is godly fear. After all, isn't fear a negative emotion? Diba? Isn't fear something that we should avoid? Isn't fear lead to a lot of problems? And why should we fear God? And what is the fear of Yahweh anyway? So before going to that, brethren, let's identify first what it is not. Okay? Fear of Yahweh, what it is not. Okay? So, number one is that the fear of Yahweh is not the fear of men or circumstances. It is different. The fear of Yahweh is not the fear of men or circumstances. Let's go to Isaiah 51, verse 12 to 13. Isaiah 51, verse 12 to 13. It says here. Let's go there. Isaiah 51. I, even I, am he who comforts you. Who you are that you should be afraid of? Who are you that you should be afraid of a man who will die, and of the Son of Man who will be made like grass? So, Yahweh is telling us that He is the one who comforts us. And He is asking the question, why are you being fearful of human beings, of people? That these people, after all, will eventually die. And the Son of Man who will be made like grass. So there is no reason for us to be afraid of people. But there's only one being that we should be afraid of, and that is Yahweh. So number one is that the fear of Yahweh is not the fear of man or circumstances. And number two, the fear of Yahweh is not a paralyzing terror. The fear of Yahweh is not a paralyzing terror. Now, this is very important, brethren. Let's go to 1 John 4, verse 18. 1 John 4, verse 18. Because sometimes it's kind of hard to really understand this fear of Yahweh. 1 John 4, 18. If we are being taught in the Bible that we should have fear of God, why is it in 1 John 4, 18, it is telling us that there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. How is it, brethren, that we are being asked that we should develop godly fear, but it is telling us here that perfect love drives out fear? Isn't this contradictory, brethren? Well, actually, this is the type of fear that I was referring to earlier. It is the ungodly fear. Now, how come that when you know the perfect love of God, it drives out fear? Because the truth is that the godly fear that we all should have is not something that should paralyze us. It is not something that we are constantly scared of God. Uy, nakakatakot yung Panginoon. Huwag tayong lumapit dyan. That is not really what godly love is. Godly love is understanding that the perfect love of God is able to forgive us. Okay? Because of that, brethren, because we have a perfect understanding of God's love for us, we don't have any reason to fear punishment. Look at this, brethren. Because fear has to do with punishment. And because we understand that Yeshua died for us, we are not to be afraid of a punishment. So, godly fear is not a paralyzing terror, that it would prevent us from getting closer to God. Now that we understand what the fear of Yahweh is not, let's go to what the fear of Yahweh is. Okay? So, let's go to Hebrews 12, verse 28 to 29. Let's go there, brethren. This is a very important verse in our discussion. Hebrews 12, verse 28 to 29. Let me read. Therefore, since you are receiving a kingdom which cannot be shaken, let us have grace by which we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. For our God is a consuming fire. Now notice, brethren, there are two keywords here that I want you to focus to. Reverence and godly fear. Now, a better translation of this word godly fear here is actually the word awe. A-W-E. Awe. Alright? So, reverence and awe are two aspects of godly fear. Okay? Two aspects of godly fear. Reverence and awe are two different things. They are closely related, but I will show you later the difference between the two. And these two aspects form the very essence of godly fear. Okay? So, we need to understand what it means, what reverence and awe really mean. Okay? So, let's go to the first word, reverence. Because this would expound our understanding of what the fear of Yahweh is all about. Reverence. So, reverence is a deep respect, honor, and admiration for Yahweh. This reflects a recognition of His holiness, justice, and authority. Reverence is about recognizing God's greatness and approaching Him with the highest regard and respect. Okay? So, reverence involves two things: humility and respect. When we have this deep respect and honor and admiration for Yahweh, we are in reverence at Him. Okay? That's why it is wrong for us to call anyone reverend. Diba na, have you noticed that? Some pastors or some ministers put a title in their name. Oh, you need to call me reverend. Because when you call someone reverend, it means that that person is worthy of reverence. And there's only one being in this entire universe who is actually worthy of reverence. So it is actually kind of a blasphemy if you call someone reverend. That's why, brethren, we need to really be careful with actually this is vanity titles that they have, that they want to, just like the word rabbi, that is actually, Yeshua said, do not call anyone rabbi. So, calling someone reverend is not actually a proper thing to do for us. Because this is a title that is only reserved to our God, our living God. So, reverence is deep respect, honor, and admiration for Yahweh. Reverence is deeply related to worship. Okay? Reverence is related to worship. So let me give you an example so that you would have a better idea of what this means. Imagine you are meeting a highly respected leader. Okay, perhaps it could be the president of your country, or it is someone who is really a distinguished person in your country. Let's just say it's just the president, okay? Sabihin natin yung president natin. And the president has invited you to have perhaps maybe lunch together. Ganun kayo ka-close. You have lunch together, or you have a certain audience with him. So, when you present yourself to the president, you would actually dress appropriately and respectfully. And you would carefully select your words out of your respect for their position and authority. In the same manner, brethren, when we present ourselves to God, if we have that reverence, if we have that deep respect to God, we are going to present ourselves. We are going to present ourselves to God in the most decent way possible. Kaya nga, di ba? We are encouraged to wear our best clothes, to wear our formal clothes when we go to Sabbath services. Why? Because it is part of our reverence to God. This is actually part of our godly fear. When we come to the Sabbath services and then we just wear our usual clothes, or nakapambahay lang, or all that, we are actually not reflecting the reverence that we should have to God. That is part of our reverence to Him. The way we present ourselves, the way we talk, the way we think, those things are actually a reflection of how much we fear God. Have you ever thought of that before, brethren? That the way you present yourself is part of our godly fear? That's why, brethren, hindi lang yan it is not just limited to Sabbath services. Whenever you are at home, you cannot attend Sabbath services. Do you still take the effort to wear your best clothes at home? Or you still just wear your pambahay? Maybe nakapajama lang. You are listening to Sabbath services, nakapajama. Or maybe, wag lang natin sabihin sa Sabbath services, even during the rest of the week. How do we carry ourselves, brethren? How do people see us? Do they see the reverence that we have to God? Do we carry ourselves respectable? Is our words edifying? Or are we like the people outside na we are using mga words that are what you call this, kanto, mga kantong mga salita? Are we like that, brethren? Actually, reverence is not simply a biblical principle, brethren. It is a way of life. It is a lifestyle. That when the people around us see us, brethren, that our classmates, our co-workers, our boss, our teachers, or anyone who sees us, that godly fear which is reverence, is so ingrained in our personality, in our life, that when they see us, brethren, they would say, "Oh, this man has godly fear. This man is reverent to God. He is someone who exhibit this reverence to God because of what they see in our example." So that is reverence, brethren. It is a way of life. So, can you now see the importance of fear of Yahweh, brethren, of fear of God? It is actually, if you truly understand what fear of Yahweh is, it could actually change the way you think, the way you talk, and the way you behave. Everything that you think, that you say and do, should be a reflection of your reverence to God. Okay? So that is reverence. Okay? So, in Hebrews 12 verse 28 says, "By which we may serve God acceptably with reverence and awe." So, we are now going to the second part of this verse, brethren. The second aspect of godly fear, which is awe. Awe is actually a type of reverence, but it is not a complete picture. So many people think of, godly fear, that is a way of, it is worship, but it is not a complete picture. There is actually a different aspect of godly fear, which is awe. Now, what is the difference between reverence and awe? AWE. What is the difference with that? Awe involves reverence, but it goes beyond being able to worship. There's a greater or deeper meaning of awe. It is having a deep respect for God as you recognize His greatness, but at the same time, you recognize His great and majestic power and ability to judge sin and execute judgment. Did you see that, brethren? Kasi a lot of people just stop with reverence. They forget that they say, oh, God is love, God is merciful, God is graceful, but they forgot that God is also the God of justice. Did you see that, brethren? Because of awe, our godly fear should also involve the recognition that one day we will all have to stand before the judgment seat and give account to how we live this life. That is godly fear. That is part of awe. Now, let me give you an example so that you would have a better understanding of this. One good example of being awe is when witnessing a thunderstorm. Have you seen a thunderstorm, brethren? If you are like me, you are in awe. You are really impressed by how beautiful these lightnings are and their sound. It is very impressive actually when you see a thunderstorm from afar. But at the same time, you also have that respect to that power of that thunder, of the lightning. Because you know that when you get struck by lightning, it could end your life. You see, brethren, a lot of us would look at lightning and we might think that, maganda siya, but we really don't understand the power behind lightning. Did you know, brethren, that lightning, that the average, one lightning has 300 million volts of power? Now compare that to the household voltage that we have. Most of our household in the Philippines have 220 volts. Ang layo. 220 volts lang. Ang iba may 120 volts. But can you just imagine lightning having 300 million volts? And it could travel about 62 million miles per hour. Grabe, ganyan kabilis. That's why when you see a lightning, parang isang kisak mata lang. So, it is very fast. Now, that's why, brethren, you appreciate the beauty of this natural phenomenon, but at the same time, you know the power behind it. That is the same way of understanding our awe to God. We appreciate the beauty, the majesty, but we also know that God is powerful. That's why, brethren, if you go back to Hebrews 12, verse 29, ano sinabi dyan? For our God is a consuming fire. We need to develop that godly fear of having awe to God, of understanding His power. He's not just merely about beauty. He's not merely about love. Those things are important. Okay, I'm not saying that's not important. Mercy, love, grace, those things are important. But we should not forget about His power, that He is able to execute judgment. Now, a lot of people, if you hear about stories, people of encountering God, like sa ano natin, yung mga in this modern time, di ba? So many people say, uy, narinig, I met God, I saw Him, like that. But actually, when you see or you have an encounter with God, according to the Bible, it is an unpleasant sight. Talagang matatakot ka. I can give you a lot of examples. For example, the vision of when John, James, and Peter saw the glorious power of God, of the glorified body of Christ, they were afraid. Even when Gideon or There's a lot of biblical characters in the Bible, when they have an encounter with God, they were filled with fear, and they were filled with astonishment that they thought that they will die. Diba? They were going, akala nila mamamatay na sila pag nung nakita nilang Panginoon. Now, there's a lot of stories like that, but I just want to show you this particular verse that gives us a glimpse of God's power and majesty. And let's go to Isaiah 6. Isaiah 6, brethren. And I want us to imagine, I want us to, siguro, if you can do it, you can close your eyes and imagine this story, this scene that is found in Isaiah 6, this vision of the prophet Isaiah. Look at this, brethren. And by reading and by looking into these verses, brethren, I would like us to really develop that kind of, to really develop the understanding, the kind of God that we are worshiping. Okay? Look at this, brethren, Isaiah 6. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw Yahweh sitting on the throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Can you just imagine? Maybe it's very difficult for Isaiah to really write this down and really describe what he is seeing in the vision. He was seeing the throne of Yahweh. It is high and it is lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Grabe. Siguro pag ako si Isaiah, nakita, the robe of Yahweh is there. Kahit saan sa temple, makikita niya, it is flowing, overflowing. That is the glory of God. And above it, ang nakita niya sa taas, above it stood seraphim. This is an angelic being, brethren. Look at the description of this angelic being. Each one had 6 wings, which two he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. So this seraphim is covering his face. Now, you might think, why would the seraphim would cover his face? Why do you think? Now, I believe there's a reason why he is covering his face. Because he is beholding the glory of Yahweh. The glory of Yahweh is so powerful that even angelic being na to, could not contain, would not be able to really bask into the glory and power of Yahweh. Talagang he is covering his face. And what else, brethren? With 2 covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And verse 3, and one cried to another and said, so this is actually this is where the special music was derived from. This Isaiah 6 verse 3. So the seraphim said, holy, holy, holy is Yahweh of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Now, I believe that the seraphim here actually is not singing a lovely song to God to serenade Yahweh. He's actually explaining what he is seeing and experience. It is so great that he could not find a word, or there's no word that could explain what he is seeing or experiencing at the time. And so he just chose the word holy. And then the one word holy is not enough to describe the majesty of God. That's why, how many times did he repeat that? He said, holy, holy, holy. Grabe. So, this seraphim is expressing the majesty of God. He is saying that holy, holy is Yahweh of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. His glory is overflowing, not just filling the temple, not just filling the heavenly throne, but also the whole earth. Ganyan ka-majestic and powerful Yahweh is. And look at this, brethren. And the posts of the door were shaken, by the voice of him who cried out, and the house was filled with smoke. Can you just imagine, brethren? That is already the temple. A heavenly temple that I would say that even the strongest pillar in this world, the best engineered temple, it is not the most I would say the strongest pillar in this world is nothing compared to this doorpost, the post of the door, and yet by the talking of the seraphim, it was shaken. Ganyan ka-powerful ang seraphim. And yet, if the seraphim is that powerful, can you just imagine how powerful the Creator is? Can you just imagine the one who created these angelic beings? Kung yan nga lang, boses lang nila, kaya na nilang payanigin ang templo. How much more would the power of Yahweh? So, you could see here that this is actually a testament to the power and the glory of Yahweh. And look at this, brethren. And the house was filled with smoke. That is how powerful the seraphim is. And yet, his power pales into comparison when comparing it to the power of God. Now, can you think of a story in the Bible with this similar description, brethren? This is actually similar to what happened at the Mount Sinai in the wilderness. Look at this, brethren. Let's go there, brethren. Let's go to Exodus 19, 16 to 18. Just put your marker in Isaiah 6 because we're still going to go back there, brethren. But I just want to see Exodus 19, how people reacted to the encounter with God. 19:16. Look at this, brethren. Then it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunderings and lightnings, and a thick cloud on the mountain, and the sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. Natakot sila. They were afraid. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now let me ask you the question, brethren. When was the last time you were so afraid that you trembled? When was the last time that you were so afraid that you trembled? Yung nanginig ka talaga. I don't know if you could still remember because it's something that is rare to happen to any one of us. But if you ask me, I can still remember the time when I was really scared that I trembled. It was during my college years. We have this professor at that time. He's a professor in political science. And he has this, I don't know, but he has this aura of being a very terror professor. Talagang nakakatakot na professor. And you know what? The way he teach, he always bring this big speaker. He would bring this speaker inside our classroom, and he has this microphone. And when he talked, and he would turn on the bass so high that when he talked, it would really impact your heart. Talaga manginginig ka. So this professor assigned us to this is very funny but scary at the same time. This professor told us to memorize the preamble of the Constitution. Okay, I don't know if you have memorized that as well. If you haven't done that yet, I'm sure that if you go to college, you would also have to memorize that preamble of the Constitution. And so, I was there, I was preparing, I was trying to memorize. I really memorized the preamble by heart. Talagang na-memorize ko na. And yet, I could not stop myself shaking. Talagang natatakot ako sa kanya. And then, I thought I was the only one shaking. But when I look at my classmates, they were also shaking. Talagang nakakatakot. And while we are looking at our classmates one by one, tinatawag sila. And they are holding the mic, and they were really, you would really see that their hands are shaking while they are saying we the people of the Republic of the Philippines. I I actually forgot about the preamble already because of that traumatic experience. So when it was in my turn, so I was already trembling. I was doing my best not to tremble. I don't want to show my classmates that I was afraid. So I recited the preamble and I was able to finish it. Okay? And then when I sat down, I could feel my hands numb. Talagang it was really numb, and it was my first time to feel something like that. And you can just imagine, brethren, that is just one person. Just one person having that kind of effect on me, on my classmates. How much more would it be Yahweh, with all the thunderings, with all the earthquakes, with all the loud sound? So you could just imagine how these Israelites felt at that time when God presented Himself in Mount Sinai. That's why when the Bible said that all the people in the camp trembled, it is not a joke. They really trembled, natakot sila. That is the kind of, that's the awesome presence of Yahweh, His majestic power. That is the kind of God we are worshiping, brethren. And yet, we are commanded to develop this type of godly fear. And what's so amazing about this godly fear, brethren, is that godly fear, the true one, okay? The true godly fear will not repel you from God. It will actually draw you closer to Him. That's the kind of godly fear that we should have. Do you remember the time when Adam and Eve were sinned and rebelled against God? What happened to them? They were fearful. But what did that fear do to them? They were hiding from God. That is not godly fear, brethren. That is actually the ungodly fear. But this type of fear that God wants us to develop is the fear that would actually make us move closer to Him. That is the type of godly fear that we should have. That's why, brethren, it is crucial for us to also have that mental picture or understanding of who God truly is, of His power, of His majesty, because that would help us better develop the right type of fear. Now, this fear, again, is not something that should paralyze us, that we would be constantly living in fear, nakakatakot, we are scared of God. But actually, no. We are develop this godly fear that would actually help us be more closer to God. That is the kind of godly fear that we should have. Alright, so to give you a summary, brethren, I know, we have to go back to Isaiah. Go back to Isaiah 6. So, how did Isaiah responded to what he have seen, to this vision of the throne of God? So verse 4 says, and the posts of the door were shaken by the voice of him who cried out, and the house was filled with smoke. In verse 5, so this is Isaiah. So I said, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. So, for him, when he saw that vision, he was afraid that he would die at that very instant. Remember, brethren, in chapter 5 of Isaiah, this is a godly person. This is actually a person who said, woe is the one who says, who calls evil good and good evil. Nandito yun I wrote it down. He said, I lost it, but he's the same person who said, woe! Woe is the one who says, who calls evil good and good evil. And yet, brethren, in this next chapter, he's not saying, woe is the sinner. He's now actually saying, woe is me. Why? Because the fear of God would actually change your perspective in life. It should change your the way you see God. It should humble you. It should change the way you conduct your life. Because when you have that godly fear, brethren, when you recognize that authority over your life, you would actually change the way you live this life. That is the importance of godly fear. And that is actually what godly fear is all about. The fear of Yahweh. So to give you a summary, brethren, what is the fear of Yahweh? The fear of the Lord or Yahweh is having reverence, which is a deep respect and utmost honor to God. This reverence is coupled with awe, which is the recognition of God's massive and unimaginable power to execute judgment and to execute righteous judgment. So that is fear. Now, can you just see, brethren, this is actually a very huge topic, the fear of Yahweh. And now, I would like to answer, for the rest of this message, brethren, I would like to answer the question, why should we fear God? Okay, why should we fear God? We now understand the fear of Yahweh. Now, we should answer the question, why should we fear God? Now, number one point that I have here is that the fear of Yahweh leads to wisdom. The fear of Yahweh leads to wisdom. In Proverbs 10:10, brethren, it says, the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. It simply says, brethren, that you cannot have godly wisdom without godly fear. If you don't have this godly fear, brethren, you will not have godly wisdom. So, in Psalm 111 verse 10, brethren, it says that, 111 verse 10, the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. All who follow His precepts have good understanding. To Him belongs eternal praise. You see, brethren, that having this godly wisdom, having this godly fear, brethren, would actually lead to godly wisdom. This world, you might be able to, you might notice, brethren, that we are overloaded with so much knowledge and so much information. And this information doubles every year. So, even though we have this massive amount of knowledge and information, how come we are not able to solve poverty? How come we are not able to eradicate crime? How come we are not able to remove war, to remove conflict? Why? Because this world lacks godly fear. If only people would have this godly fear, brethren, they would have godly wisdom that would help them to know how to better live this life. So that is the first principle, brethren. Why should we fear God? Because the fear of Yahweh leads to wisdom. Number two, the fear of Yahweh protects us from other fears. The fear of Yahweh protects us from other fears. If you are living a fearful life, brethren, there's only one antidote to that, and that is godly fear. If you are able to replace your fear with godly fear, that would actually change your life. You can see here, brethren, let's go to Isaiah 8:13, brethren. Isaiah 8:13. It says, Isaiah 8:13. It says, the Lord of hosts, Him you shall hallow. Let Him be your fear, and let Him be your dread. So the Bible is telling us, brethren, that if there's one thing that we should fear, it should be Yahweh. Let Him be our fear and our dread. Meaning, brethren, that if we are fearful of other people, we are fearful of our boss, of our teachers, of our neighbors, we could almost instantly remove those fear, brethren, when we replace it with godly fear. Alright, so that is point number 2. Let's go to Psalm 27 verse 1. Psalm 27 verse 1. If you have godly fear, brethren, you can say these words with so much confidence. Psalm 27 verse 1. Yahweh is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Yahweh is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Answer, none. No one. Nothing. You have nothing to fear as long as you fear Yahweh. When you have that fear, brethren, when you replace your fear with godly fear, you have God fighting your battles. So that is the point number 2. And finally, point number 3, brethren. The fear of Yahweh leads to obedience. The fear of Yahweh leads to obedience. Let's go to Deuteronomy 10:12. Deuteronomy 10 verses 12 to 13. Okay. 12 to 13. And now, Israel, what does Yahweh your God require of you? What was the requirements of Yahweh, brethren? But to fear Yahweh your God, to walk in all His ways, and to love Him, to serve Yahweh your God with all your heart, with all your soul. And notice, brethren, how the fear of God is actually linked to obedience. Verse 13. And to keep the commandments of Yahweh and His statutes, which I command you today for your good. Can you see that, brethren? There is a relation between the fear of God and obedience. One good example here, brethren, is Abraham. Abraham is known as the father of the faithful, and he is also a man who feared God greatly. Let's go to Genesis 22 verse 2, brethren. Let's briefly look at this story here in Genesis 22. It says, Then Yahweh said, Take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. Now, if you don't fear God, brethren, you would absolutely say, No thanks, Yahweh, no way I would be giving my son to you. I will never sacrifice my son. And yet, brethren, Abraham has this godly fear. Now notice, what was his reaction? What was his response to God's command? In verse 3 says, So Abraham rose early in the morning, continuing in the last part, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. So he instantly obeyed God. You see, brethren, when you if you fear God, no matter if God did not explain to Abraham why he needs to sacrifice his son, there's no explanation. Abraham could not see the benefit of sacrificing his son. It would definitely hurt him. And yet, in spite of all these inconveniences, brethren, he still chose to follow God because of his fear, because of his godly fear. And notice here, brethren, so when you fear God, brethren, your natural response is actually to obey Him. I want you to take note of this. The truth is that obedience is the outward evidence of the fear of Yahweh. How would you know if you really fear God? You just have to simply think. You simply have to see if you obey God. If you don't obey God, then your godly fear is not real. It is not real. That's why, brethren, Abraham here followed God, and what happened? He traveled to Mount Moriah, brought with him the wood for burnt offering, set up the altar, and tied Isaac. You can just imagine the pain Abraham is going through while doing all these things. Then in verse 11, brethren, look at this. Verse 11. When he was about to, he raised his hand and he was about to stab Isaac, what happened? But the angel of Yahweh called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. So he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him. Look at this, brethren. For now I know that you fear God. Did you see that, brethren? For I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Notice that, brethren. The angel did not say, Now I know that you are faithful to me. That now I know that you will trust me. Now that I know that you would do everything that I will tell you. No. What was the commendation, brethren? now I know that you fear God. How did he know that he feared God? Because of his obedience. And because of obedience, brethren, that is actually the outward evidence of our fear. If you fear God, then you have to obey Him. In spite of not understanding things, it's easy to fear God when everything is fine, di ba? When you understand everything, when you know this is happening. And yet, for us, reading this story, we know the end of the story of Abraham. Alam natin yan. But during at that time, Abraham didn't know. Hindi niya alam kung anong mangyayari. He doesn't have any idea if he would actually kill his son, if it would have a happy ending. No. And yet, Abraham obeyed God. Why? It is because of godly fear. When you have godly fear, brethren, it would become a deterrent. Deterrent meaning it will prevent you from committing sin. It would also help you to hate evil and avoid sin in your life. That's why, brethren, it is very important for us to have godly fear. Kaya nga, di ba, when someone is about to someone is about to do a sin, commit a sin or do something wrong, di ba? Sinasabi natin, "Oh, wala ka bang takot sa Diyos?" Di ba? That's what we say. Na, hindi ka pa natatakot sa Diyos sa ginagawa mo. Because, you know why? Because godly fear would actually help you overcome sin in your life. When you are alone in your room, when you are alone in your house, when you are just, no one is looking at you, the godly fear that you have will help you prevent committing sin. When you have this assurance, oh, pag ginawa mo yan, no one will catch you. Wala makakaalam sa gagawin mo masama. Gawin mo na lang. Diba? Kaya nga, a lot of people, a lot of corrupt officials in our government would do it. Kasi no one will know. Pero ngayon, alam na. That's why we see this Senate hearing. Alam mo, if you are able to watch those things, di ba? It would just it is quite surprising to see how much corruption is going on in our government. Kaya nga, these people are, our world is corrupt because it lacks godly fear. So, that is the third point that I have for you, brethren. Why should we fear God? Because the fear of Yahweh leads to obedience. Now, brethren, I want to close with this final verse that I want to share with you. And this final verse is actually a very important reminder for all of us. This is the same conclusion that King Solomon had after experimenting with his life. After trying to pursue worldly pleasures, experimenting with his life, this was the conclusion that he made. Look at here in Ecclesiastes 12, verse 13 to 14. This is actually the verse we use in our infographic today. Ecclesiastes 12, 13 to 14. It says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter." So after doing all these experiments, pursuing worldly pleasures, this was the conclusion of the wisest king, Solomon. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. What was the conclusion? Kung sa ano pa, sa science projects pa natin, di ba? When you remember, I therefore conclude. Yan yung sinasabi natin at the end of our experiments. It says, what was the conclusion? Fear God. That was his conclusion. Godly fear. Can you just imagine? Yan yung naging conclusion ni Solomon because during his life, during the mid part of his life, he forgot about godly fear. He was wise, but he forgot godly fear. And this was his conclusion. Fear God and keep His commandments. Did you see that, brethren? How closely related the fear of God and keeping His commandments? And what else? What he says? Why? Why did he came to this conclusion? For this is the whole duty of man. That is our duty. If someone will ask you, what is the purpose of your life? This is the purpose of my life. That is to fear and keep God's commandments. Verse 14. Why? Why, brethren? Why should we be afraid of God? Now, I'm not saying that you would be scared, but this kind of fear would move you closer to God. Why? For God will bring every work into judgment. That includes the things that we have done in secret. That includes the deepest secrets that we have in our life. That includes the most well secret sins that we have. It says, for God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. Now I pray in my sincerest hope, brethren, that when we stand before the judgment throne of Yeshua, we can confidently say, brethren, that we have feared God and we have kept His commandments. Because at the end of it all, brethren, that is what it matters here, according to this verse. So, brethren, I hope that you have a better understanding of the fear of Yahweh. And a good topic in the future would be how to develop this type of fear. I hope that I would be able to give this message. But still, I hope this message has opened your eyes to what it really means to fear God. And I hope this fear would move you closer to God and to have a deeper relationship with Him. And hope and pray, brethren, that the fear of God would help us all to be part of that future kingdom. Hello friends, I need your help. If this is not too much to ask, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This should only take 5 seconds of your time, but this simple gesture would help me reach more people and share the Word of God with the rest of the world. You have the power to make a difference in people's lives.